4th of December 2023. This Let's Talk, I want to talk about crime and punishment. That is something that really deserves some discussion. Over the weekend, there were a video circulating of two hijackers that were caught in the act by the community somewhere in the Cape. And those two hijackers were severely assaulted by the community. And while the assault was taking place, the two firearms were clearly visible lying on the paving there. But there was no mercy. They were physically severely assaulted. And then yesterday, late yesterday, there was messages appearing about two guys assaulted and stoned and then burned to death in Alexandra. Robbers, thieves, whatever. But the images that were shown on the TV and so forth were just the burn marks on the rubble there. A guy that was part of the investigation team sent me an image of the two corpses. And it is brutal and it's not nice to see. But that is community justice. Yes, and we can call it vigilantism, which it actually is. The fact is, we have to ask why it is happening. When I was at university, I had a professor, not a professor, a tutor in one of the criminal departments there, Department of Criminology or something. And he told me that he was busy doing his thesis on vigilantism. And he said that that is something that any society must be extremely aware of and careful for. Because from the information that he has gathered around the world, it is clear that once vigilante justice takes a root in a society, it can take up to 3 generations to get it out. And I asked him, so how do you prevent vigilantism? And he said, with an effective, efficient law and order system. And in the 70s, I was posted to the magistrate's court in Garankuwa as prosecutor. And I had a magistrate, and I'm just going to call him Uncle Joe. And me and him developed a very good relationship. But every day it was the normal petty crimes and things and so forth. And then one morning I arrived at the courthouse, and the station commander of the Wild police station was waiting for me in my office. And he said to me, we've got a problem. And I said, what's that? And he said, we caught 3 young white guys last night here in Garankuwa assaulting a black girl. We caught them in the car. The girl's clothes were ripped off and the boys were naked. The 2 constables arrested them on the spot and threw them in the van and threw their clothes into the van and brought them to the police station. So I locked them up for the night. I've got them here in the holding cell now, but their lawyer is here. And it's a fancy suit guy from Pretoria. These 3 boys, their parents lives in Waterkloof. Now for those that don't get that connection, that was the absolute Lani area of Pretoria. All the high society and hoi polloi stayed there. And he said to me, so you can expect some serious footwork from that lawyer. I know him. I said, no, it's okay, where's the docket? And he gave me the docket and I went through the stuff. I said, okay. So the lawyer comes to my office and he said he wants a postponement of the case. and he wants bail for his clients. I said, well, I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. Let's go and talk to Uncle Joe. So we went to the magistrate's office. And Uncle Joe said to me, okay, just tell me, what do you have on the docket? And I gave him the outlines, and I show him the bag with the clothes of the girl. And he said, okay. And he asked me, he said, so they were arrested in the car with the girl? He said, yes. And he said, the policeman that arrested them, they're here to give evidence? I said, yes. I said, okay. Then he said to the lawyer, okay, what do you want? No, you want a postponement. And Uncle Joe said to him, postponement on what grounds? On what grounds do you want postponement? Here's a prima facie case. This is what happened. What do you want to do? Do you want to deny it was your clients that was in the car? And the guy said, no. I said, okay, all right. I'm not going to talk on this anymore. I'll see you in court 10 o'clock. So at 10 o'clock we get into the courtroom. I present my case, and then it was the lawyer's chance. He had to present his client's case. And he said to the magistrate, we want more time to prepare for this case. I have been instructed by the parents to offer bail. And Uncle Joe looked at him and he said, now what do you want to prepare? There's nothing to prepare here. This case is going to proceed. Lead your witnesses. And got the boys up, and one started talking, and lots of shit stories, and why they were there, and they were drunk, and I don't know what, all types of cuck. And Uncle Joe stopped him, and he turned to the accused and he said to them, were you arrested in the car with a girl? Yes. So you were there. It was not your ghost or your spiritual doubles or something like that. You were arrested in the car, on the scene of the crime. And they nodded. And he said, I don't want to hear anything further. And he gave judgment. And he gave them each 5 cuts with a medium cane. And he said, this must be executed before lunch. And the lawyer went ballistic and all of that, but Uncle Joe just hit his hammer. Next case, carried on. The police, the court constable came to me and said, listen, we have found the district surgeon. He can only be here at 2 o'clock. Okay, so told Uncle Joe, and Uncle Joe said that's not a problem. So by 2 o'clock the district surgeon rocks up. The 3 guys are taken to the courtyard. He checks their heartbeat and blood pressure and everything. And the constable from the veld that did the corporal punishment lined them up and he set them over the drum and he started eating, nailing them. Each gets their 5 shots. I can't tell you of the volume of shit that was in that courtyard, and the tears and the snot and the screams and the what, and by around about by the 4th cut there's blood. And in any case, so they got their asses fucking whipped properly, and that was it, in the car with the lawyer and gone. And I said to Uncle Joe, okay, what's going to happen now? And he said, that lawyer, he's now going to ask for a review of the sentence. But let him do it. I don't care. If I gave them 6 cuts, it goes on automatic review and the judgment can't be executed before the review comes back. The same if I gave them cuts with a heavy cane, any number of cuts with a heavy cane, automatic review. So this will now go on the review. Let's see what happens. About 3 weeks later, I walked into the office the morning and Uncle Joe was sitting there at the edge of my desk, just laughing with a folder in his hand. He said that review's back. He said, what? He said, they changed the punishment from 5 cuts each to 250 rand fine each. And he started laughing. He said, now you see what's not going to happen now. Now they have to come and pay that fine or we're going to arrest them again. They must come and pay the fines, and their SAP 69 will be changed from 5 cuts to a fine. But the guilty verdict sits. Now, I'm telling you this story because there's a moral in this story. That was justice. That was justice. Today in South Africa, they will be caught in the act, and then they'll get bail, and then depending on the connections that their parents have, a few things will happen. The case would be transferred from Garankuwa into Pretoria, where it's friendly courts for them, friendly for them, and the case will draw out and draw out and draw out and draw out. And one postponement or the other, one postponement or the other, and eventually either the NPA, depending on the connections the parents have, the NPA will withdraw the case, or it will be declared a mistrial. That is what happened. That's not justice. That's not justice. And we see it. These people, they steal millions of rands. Millions. And the cases just wither away. Brutal murders are committed. And it drags through the court, 2.5 years, 3 years later, it basically evaporates. Now all of this, I'm telling you, to bring it back to why I am a very strong supporter of tribes. If we look at the total global grip that XXX has on basically all the Western societies and on many of the African societies, including our own society, it is a death grip. And the society members do not have, first of all, they do not have the ability to fight XXX in a court and law system designed specifically to protect XXX. So I say, tribal law, quick punishment. Tribal council meets, listen to the story, dishes out the punishment. Immediately, swift and clear. To get back to tribal level, this whole central government system must collapse. And the tribes must rule their tribal land. And for those that get excited, to those that are in denial and those that are living in La La Land, let me just place it on record. As far as the Boer is concerned, history shows clearly what is Boer land. There's no denying of it. Boer land that was stolen by colonial powers. But if you go to tribal level and you talk to the tribes and the conservative tribe members, the Zulu Royal House, they acknowledge the existence of all the treaties between the Zulu nation and the Boer. The same with the Sothos, the same with the Tswanas, the same with the Swazis. None of those tribes, nations, deny the existence of those things. And all 4 of them has been part and party to the treaties that led to the Boer land, the Boer republics and so forth. So, get off that horse. But the tribes will sort it out. Not this colonial-driven court system. The same with the stealing of the tribal natural resources. The tribal councils will decide at what rate and price a conglomerate will get resources from that tribal land. And if they don't want to pay the price, they must go. And their contracts signed under the jurisdiction of the colonial laws and rules that they put in place over many years to protect them, that will not be worth the paper it's written on. So it is only the tribes that can break the power of Triple X. Get that in your mind. It is only the tribes that can ensure that the tribe members get justice. Where is the justice when an armed gang breaks into your home and you, by the grace of God or luck or training or whatever reason, you kill them in your house? There they are on the floor, dead, pangas and guns with them. The police arrives at your house, and the first thing they do is they confiscate your weapons. Secondly, they arrest you. Where is the fucking justice in that? It is only the tribes that can make sure that tribe members are safe and protected against criminals, because tribal law will sort the criminals out. There is something else that I want to mention. Over the weekend, someone pointed me to a speech that Peter Groenewald of the Freedom Front Plus made. And in that speech, he talked about the importance of a vote and why it is important for people to vote. And he also took time to describe the parliamentary processes. And as he said, that vote that happens there in the General Assembly, that is just a numbers vote. But the more representatives a party have, the more weight they have in the committees and so forth. And I listened to him and I realized that even our political system has been made so complex and complicated that only the Triple X agents can actually function in it, and everything is there to protect Triple X. We need to get out of that. We need to get away from that. We need to get back to a simple situation of a tribal council with 5 or 6 or 7 members. And that's the end of the story. That's the final word. Those are the guys that say what the rules for that tribe will be, and that's the end of it. Because it's in this complexity that once again was built by the colonial powers and Triple X to protect them. Not to serve us, to protect them. And you must think about this. We are sitting in a country that has turned into a failed state. It's totally dysfunctional. There's nothing operating anymore. Nothing. The police force, the national police force, is so corrupt. And there are so many cases that is evidence of that. The law system, the court systems, everything is corrupted to the core. So the only way is for the tribes to take their land back and take control over their land back and take the security of their people in their hands, not in the hands of Triple X puppets like the ANC, like the DA. No. Back to the basics. And then people tell me, yeah, but these tribal leaders, they are so corrupted by Triple X already. Look now what happened in Limpopo with all that buckies that were gifted to the tribe, to the tribal officials. And I said, but that is not really a problem for the tribes. because the tribe will pull those corrupt ones out, expose them and punish them. Whereas our legal system will never punish those corrupt officials. But the tribe, the tribal elders, they will get that sorted out, and the tribe impies will sort it out, because there is a hell of a lot of solid, conservative tribe members in all these tribes, and they are aware of the corruption, and they know where it leads and what it has brought to them. So I don't have an issue with that. Those corrupt officials will either flee or face the music. That is what will happen. But this is something that a civilized Western mind struggles with. But unfortunately, that's the only way out of this death grip of XXX. And I'm sad to say, the same is applicable to Europe, the same is applicable to the UK, the same is applicable to America, the same is applicable everywhere in the Western world where the corrupt XXX has fucked everything up. We'll have to go back to tribal level. The Americans has got a very big problem. XXX is flooding their country with immigrants. The same in Europe, the same in the UK. And it is only the tribes that can really fight that, because that corrupt governments are boosting that. Those corrupt governments are all proxies for XXX. So you'll have to go tribal. And this is hard things for, I see that people in Europe are suffering like hell. They are being assaulted on the streets. Those people that are being assaulted by those barbarians, they are absolutely defenseless against those barbarians, because their brains cannot process the violence that is brought to them. They cannot process that. They do not know. They're trying to block and dodge and what, and they get fucked up. There's enough videos showing how they are being brutalized. But then you also see videos of men fighting back, dishing out serious punishment to those barbarians. And funny enough, those barbarians, when the moment they hit resistance, they run. And that is the only thing that's left. So from this highly cuddled up civilized societies that we'll have to go back to tribe level. And unfortunately, history has showed it. You have to meet barbarians with the same violence that they are dishing out. If you do not bring the same violence to them, they are going to destroy you. And there's a good example in what Putin had to face when he took over in Russia. Do you for one moment think it was an easy task for him to get control over Russia back out of the hands of the criminal gangs? Those criminal gangs were well established. And he got the control back by meeting them with the same brute force that they were dealing out to the citizens. And the moment that the citizens realized that Putin is fighting those guys, they turned and they massed behind Putin. And from there on, it was just one way for the criminals. But we don't have a Putin. So, back to the tribes. That's where we'll have to go. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. Thank you for your support.